Hello friends, welcome back to our channel Demystify Frontend, and this is yet another video in the series Build Your Own Angular Forms. So in this video we are going to see how we can define and apply an asynchronous validation directive in our template driven forms. So this is my first name input. So let me show you like what all validation directives I have applied here. So let's go to the template of this page. So this is my app component.html, and here you can see, let me highlight all the validation directives. So we have like a couple of validation directives applied here, and so we have like three validation directives applied here. One is the required validation, another is min length, which ensures this input have a minimum required length, and the third one is the forbidden names. So this is our asynchronous validation directive, which basically checks if the name is valid. So now let me show you how these validations are working. If I clear this input, so you see the first two validation directives, they are fired, and the correct error messages are shown down below the input. The first one says please provide the first name. So this message is coming from the required validation, which fails here. And the second one is please enter at least 3 characters. So this comes from the min length validation. But you don't see anything from the async validation, no message, nothing. So when Angular form validates your input, it always fires the synchronous validations, and once the synchronous validations are passed, only then it will fire the async validation. Okay, because there is no point in executing the async validations on every keystroke, because they are supposed to be costly, as they might require calling an external API or doing some async operations. Okay, so that's why it shows only the error message from the first two directives, required and min length. But as soon as you satisfy these two validations, these two synchronous validation, you will see like it will fire the async validation. So let me enter something like this. So now you see this message. So this message is shown when this input is in pending state. So what is pending state? So basically when Angular form fires your async validation, it updates the form control status. So form control is something which ng model creates internally behind the scenes. Like in reactive form, you basically have the full control on the forms API. You create your own form control, form group, form array, everything. In ng model, the form control is created by the ng model directive, and it exposes some flags, some key information from the form control, like the status and errors and all. So as you saw, like when we type something, this is firing the async validation, so it updates the form control status to pending, and till the time it is pending, we show this visual cue to the user, like validation is going on. Okay, so now let me enter something which fails this async validation. So let me enter one of the name, which is forbidden here, Tom. So now you will see we will get our validation errors here. Okay, so this is how the async validation will work. All right, so now let me show you how to apply the async validation, how to define the validation directives. Okay, so we defined one validation. So for the asynchronous validation also, we define one validation directives, like required and min length. These are also the validation directives which Angular provides out of the box. But this async validation is written by us. So this is a custom validation. So basically what you will do, you will define this directive, give it a selector, and you will define your directive. So to define an async validator, just implement this interface async validator, which basically, let me show you what it says. So it says like implement this method validate, which takes the form control, and it returns a promise, or either a promise or an observable, which resolves or rejects with a either a null value or the validation errors. Okay, it is similar to the validator. So this validator interface is implemented by the synchronous validation directives. Okay, so here it also returns the validation errors and null, but it returns these like errors in a synchronous fashion, but in async it won't return the validation error immediately, rather it will return a promise and observable which might resolve with the validation error or null. All right, so in the validate, we are not making an actual API call, so in but we are making use of this promise to perform async operation here, and within the promise we will be basically returning some errors here depending on if you select Tom or Harry in the input field. Okay, and another thing is you will basically register this directive on this provider ng async validators. Okay, only then this directive will be applied on the input. And the last thing is simply apply the selector of the directive which you have created. Okay, so this is how it works, and let's clear it. So now it fires all the synchronous validation, and as soon as you satisfy all the sync validation, it will fire the async one. And if there is the data is not valid, then it will show the error. That's it. Isn't it simple enough? Okay, so this is all about how we use the async validation. But since this series is about not about just using these things, but like defining. Since we are creating the Angular form package from the scratch, so we will also be adding all this behavior in our ng model implementation. Okay, so in the next video, what you will see how we implement the support of the asynchronous validation in our ng model implementation. Okay, so let's see you in the next video. Till then, bye bye.